Tackling any new marketing requires listening to an expert who's done it first to tell you how much marketing you might need to do in order to get a deal. If you don't know that, you'll end up quitting too soon, wasting all your money. And if you also go too long without getting a deal, then you might actually be wasting money doing something wrong. So understanding about how many pieces of mail or phone calls it takes to get a deal is really helpful for you to diagnose what's going on. It's exactly what our guest here provides.
And I've always said there's two things that you need to have. One of two things that you need to have when you're first starting out in wholesaling. You either need to have time or you need to have money. You need to have time that gives you the ability to sit and dial, or having the assets to be able to spend money on direct mail. This source today on the podcast is going to give you a solution that you'll be able to get a lot more done in a short period of time, probably bringing you in deals faster than you would have been able to do on your own.
So Nick, would you mind describing your business in 30 seconds?
Yeah, I would say that I am a white glove lead generation company. And the main reason why I say white glove is because before you purchase, you talk to me, the actual owner. I make sure you purchase the right product that's best for you. During your purchase, we're making the calls, we're doing the text messages, we're making sure all the criteria is right. And then every week I invite all of my clients to meet with me one-on-one. And then we actually cover the campaign. And then even when it ends, I invite them to one more meeting. So, we're really this white glove lead gen approach is really kind of what we are. So we make sure you buy the right thing. We track your progress throughout. We can make changes halfway through a campaign. And all that is just in service of you guys. And on top of that, we offer a bunch of free courses that tell everyone exactly what to do and exactly what to say to every lead that we send them.
Why did you end up starting your company? What were you trying to accomplish when you did that?
So I created this company by accident, like many great entrepreneurs do. And I was working for an education company and I was teaching people how to invest in real estate, or I was the director of fulfillment there. And we made this big pivot from direct mail to cold calling. Right? Direct mail has a cost to it. Cold calling has a time cost only. So we made this big pivot. So I watched all these students get successful while executing my cold calling strategy. And then when I came home, or when I started working from home at that job, I worked, and then all my free time I would cold call for my own leads. And I made a rule with myself that I would go live every day on Facebook that I cold called. And that just caught traction. People started, hey, I don't have any time. Could you call for me? Hey, could you call for me? And before I knew it, I was making more money getting paid to do calls than I was to pursue real estate. And that was 8 years ago. And then bam, this business was born.
Nice.
Yeah. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, isn't that cool? Totally organic, totally accidental. It's beautiful.
But it's creating value. That's the thing. Like,
right.
Somebody saw something that they needed through you, and that immediately they associated that as being worth something monetarily.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you took that opportunity and blew it up. What kind of campaigns do you do? Like, explain what a campaign looks like and how it's reaching people, what it's reaching. Explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, with us, so we provide, I say 5 services. 4 of those are paid for. 1 of them's free. So I can pull a list in any market in America, or clients can provide one. I know with DealMachine, a lot of people bring their lists over. We welcome it big time. We skip trace the list as well. And if you already have it skip trace, that's fine too. And then we also have done for you we have done for you American cold calling. Okay, so we actually have Americans that call everyone. I did just launch full-time foreign cold callers too, as well. But we have Americans or foreign cold callers for you to pick from. And then I also do text messaging. So a campaign is all of that. So I call it no stone unturned. Right.
Yes.
So we call everyone 2 to 3 times. We text everyone once. At the end of the day, you could sleep easy knowing that I touched everyone on that list at least 3 times. And that way, that your list was thoroughly worked. Then what I recommend is, if you want to revisit, just give it like a 30-day cool down, and then we can revisit the list with more calls and more texts.
One of the things that you said at the beginning was that mail has a big cost to it. Cold calling is only your time. But I'm curious, now people are paying you to call.
Right.
So why would they do that instead of sending mail?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I think it's like a blackjack versus the slots, right? It's kind of I feel like direct mail is like a slot machine, right? I mean, we really don't know. You put the money in, you pull the lever, you're like, all right, is the phone gonna ring? Let's go, baby, right? It feels so maybe, right? Direct mail does, and cold calling and text messaging. I mean, it will get you leads, right? Like, without a doubt. So it's more like blackjack. And the reason anyone who knows anything about poker is blackjack's actually a skill-based poker game, right? I think at least you have like a 51% chance to win at blackjack. And that's almost if you're skillless, right? Then all of a sudden, the maneuvers, the cards, the things. And so with cold calling, we speaking directly to them. When we say, hey, have you ever considered selling? And they go, no. And we go, oh, well, are you sure? It certainly sounds like you've considered at some point or another. So we have that opportunity to like really loosen them up. And then you'd be surprised. I was listening to calls this morning, which I randomly do. And this guy goes, no, I don't want to sell. Okay. Is there any other properties you're considering selling? Well, how much would you give me for it? So it's like, think about that. Direct mail is garbage. Right now we're going in, we got rebuttals, we can read their energy, they can change their mind mid-call, and all of that really, really helps. And
Cool.
the last thing I would say is if you're trying to cut your teeth or get experience, you want to do that on a cold calling lead or an SMS lead. The reason why is the cost of that lead is so low. Let's say direct mail leads average $300 to $600 a lead. If you haven't talked to 100 sellers yet, that's your first 100 sellers are practice, right? I mean, like, let's kind of be honest with ourselves. I mean, you could do more, you could do better, but you should really kind of chop it up. And at $300 per direct mail lead, that's expensive practice too. So our service will definitely help lower your cost per lead, and you can get that practice in at a cheaper cost rather than with direct mail.
Hey, one of the reasons why I was excited to have you on is because you have so many clients cold calling, you execute it for them. And a common question we get is, well, how many calls does it take to get a deal here? And I know it varies from markets to markets, but how could you answer that question for us?
Yeah.
What you're seeing?
Yeah. So I got a couple KPIs for you. So the first KPI is dials per lead. Okay. So my company, I know it's really good, but my company, we average about 240 dials per lead is where we're at. Okay. So that's our first metric. Okay. Then I say that my average client closes a deal 1 in every 12 to 20 leads. Okay. So if we break that math down, let's just say it's 300 dials per lead. We'll round up a little bit. Okay. Times 20, is that 6,000 dials? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
And that's really worst case scenario. And that doesn't include texting. That doesn't include those numbers, but just calling alone, if you're really churning it out, and you're also closing deals at the highest average of 1 in 20, not 1 in 12, then I would say 6,000 dials should be your target. So think about 6,000 dials should yield you 20 leads. Those 20 leads should yield you 5 appointments. Those 5 appointments should yield you 1 closing at least. And those are all bottom of the barrel averages.
Got it. And a lead would be defined as somebody who was maybe open to it, right? And that doesn't mean they gave you an appointment, but it just means they were maybe open to it.
That's exactly right. So a lead is actually anyone who has considered selling, right? That's what we consider a lead. Now, we do ask them follow-up questions for our clients, but no matter what, I tell all my clients, if they say yes, they've considered selling, we're sending you the lead, period. And we owe that to you, and I tell people that because I don't know how good you are on the phone. I have people that call me up and they go, if they raise their hand, they're a lead. I love those leads. You get them. And I have other people that are like, I only want them if they'll take 50 cents on the dollar. And, I say, well, just so you know, like no one's taking 50 cents on the dollar on the first phone call. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yes. So it's like, it's our job as the acquisition manager or the business owner to massage that relationship to the 50 cents on the dollar moment, right?
Mhm.
They don't come out of I've been dying to sell my house for half of what it's worth. Please, I've just been waiting for that all day,
How many calls can your agents make in a day, would you say? Like if I buy your service, do I get a dedicated agent that's going to be calling all day for me?
So I have two different ways I do it. So the Americans, think of them more like boutique, right? I recommend my American callers in suburban markets and for land. Okay. The more suburban, the more the impact Americans have. If it's land, more impact Americans have. Then I have my new foreign cold callers that I just launched. Now that actually is more or less a dedicated caller. Okay.
Hmm.
That's someone that you get in between 5 and 8 hours a day. I sell my foreign callers in bigger packages. So like my Americans, I sell between 500 and like 3,000 dials. And the foreign callers, I sell from 5,000 to 20,000 dials. And I do that on purpose because the foreign team, it does take them more dials to get a lead, right? That's just a fact.
Mhm.
So you need more of that firepower to do it. So the Americans is more boutique, smaller campaigns, maybe more niche list, more suburban, more land style. If you're in like places like Phoenix or Miami or Orlando or Dallas or Houston, then you would want to do our foreign callers at the higher volume packages. But it's about a third of the cost of the American. That's the perk of the using foreign with us, is it's about a third of the cost.
Got it. Sorry, I don't know if you answered. How many could they make in a day, would you say? Or like
Oh
eight
yeah, so
hours or so?
I'd say a full-time employee, we average about 150 dials per hour might be a way to think about it. And that's if there's a bunch of leads that goes down, right? If it's like land or a suburban market, or the list is just killing it, that definitely drops. But 150 dials per hour at 8 hours, is that about 1,200? About 1,200 dials a day, somewhere in there, I think. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So I would say that that's about right. That we could do.
When you were saying 6,000 dials generates a lead, that's not 6,000.
That 6,000 dials generate a deal. 6,000 dials
Right,
would
right,
be
right.
20 leads.
So that's not saying you have a list of 6,000 people, because
That's correct.
sometimes you have a deal in DealMachine, you have a lead that's got like 7 phone numbers. So when you're saying 6,000, that's like 6,000 individual dials will generate a lead. Am I
Yeah,
accurate
no,
thinking that way?
you're right. So like
Okay.
redials are included with that, but we don't call any of the other numbers. I don't know what you guys have. You guys might have better metrics, but with the skip tracing that we do, we found that the first number gets the right person on the phone over 80% of the time. So in my world, I would never call the second, third, or fourth number for less than a 20% chance, right? So it's
Gotcha.
like for me, because I'm also, remember, I'm charging my customers per dial. So I don't want to charge them full price for a 20% opportunity, right? In
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah. That's good.
I think that's true that with skip tracing, where you only get phone numbers, that's got to be the case. But in Deal Machine, if there's two owners, you've got Nicholas Romero and David Lecco who own several properties. And so for me, the first number might be me, and then
The next number
the
might be
second
your
number is
partner,
going to go to Nicholas Romero,
Yep.
right?
and then it's going to be Nick, right? So like both of those numbers are great. And I don't think anywhere else shows you personal files, right? And
Right.
they're just giving you random phone numbers. So I would say for anybody calling on Deal Machine and that definitely would
Yeah.
call through because they're not random extra numbers. They're actually like, oh, this is
They're
the two people
associated,
that own this, or
right?
these are the spouse, right? And so I think that would be my recommendation for anybody using Deal Machine,
Yeah, right, for
since you
sure.
brought it up.
Yeah. No, that's right, because that second number is a new person's first number, right? Because that's basically what you're saying, right? So it's like if there's dual owner, that second number is actually still a first number just for the other owner.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
On the cold calling side as well, if you have an agent, like how do you tell if the agents are doing a good job? Because I'm sure one of your challenges, and anyone here who wants to hire even a VA for themselves, is they now need to evaluate their agents to see if they're doing a good job.
Right.
Do you have any advice for that on how you do it?
Oh yeah. Yeah. So everything is leads per hour. Okay. So my employees are not even allowed to work for me if they don't get one lead per 2 hours of work. Okay. And if you remember earlier, we dialed about 150, 160 dials per hour. So that's one lead per 300 dials minimum. Now that's an American statistic. Okay. People are probably watching us go, my Filipinos get one lead every 2,000 dials. I know they do, right? That's why we don't really recommend them very often, right? And they take more training and more oversight and more management to get them better. That's one of the perks you get from us. You do get all those things. But if my employee doesn't have one lead per 2 hours worth of work, I do not let them work for me. So that they know that is their standard. Now, the first time it happens, I put them back in training for 2 weeks. And then if their numbers don't improve, it's not like, hey, you're fired, but it's like, hey, I don't think this is a match, because I'm not here to make bad cold callers good, right? I'm here to make natural cold callers amazing, is what I'm here to do.
Yes. Actually, so on the DealMachine side, they're not making cold calls, but just for the customer support of the app. We have 12 people now, and the team has been around for 6 years. I recently discovered an error in the way I was incentivizing them. I always felt it was so important to get a response quickly. And I set up the team that way, and they would actually receive like a little bonus at the end of each month if they were like in the top ranking person for getting answers quickly. And I think especially in the last like couple of years, it really was hurting the experience, and I wasn't aware of it until recently. And it was because they were incentivized to like get through quickly, but they were sending like canned responses without taking the time to read. And then they would respond quickly, but then get distracted by incoming chats, and they would no longer, they'd kind of respond, but then leave you hanging. Right. And if they went on break, then they'd pass you off. And I would just say I was so wrong with the way I was incentivizing it. I was able to get the average response time down for closing and resolving a support ticket from like several days to now it's like, 50 minutes. And so we still have work to do there for sure. But that was like a big eye opener for me on like how incentivizing is so important. And obviously it's different than cold calling, but I'm kind of curious because I've always just felt like calling would be a tougher thing to manage because it's easier to read through chats than it is to like listens to hours and hours and hours of calls. So just very excited and interested to hear how you've incentivized it. And leads does make sense. I guess the only tough spot would be if you gave them a bad list, it'd be a little unfair, I suppose.
Well, and that's why it averages, right? So it's like the beauty of it is most of my callers share clients. So it's it averages out, right? It's not like one client with one issue, but it also does incentivize them to alert me if something's wrong. Hey, I'm in this campaign and I got a bunch of wrong numbers here, guys. I don't know what's going on. Or, hey, everyone's really grumpy here, right? Too. And the leads per hour I found to really be the best indicator. Some people say, well, do you bonus your employees that send the most leads? No, I don't do that. I'd have the same problem you have now, or that you had. And that is, well, I'm incentivizing the wrong side. Now they're just going to send over a bunch of shitty leads to everybody. Right. And so it's like that's not the goal. So instead, I make sure that they're working, and then I make sure that they're averaging one lead per 2 hours. And it's somewhat of like a reasonable amount. And a lot of people are above that. I have 2 employees at 1 lead per 1 hour, which is great. But that's the beauty of minimum standards is we're generally way above them. And that's really where we should say, as a company, we sit at 0.82 on average on the leads per hour.
So you're saying that you don't actually do a cash bonus for this metric?
I do not.
Right?
I do not. Instead,
I love that so much, actually.
Yeah. Instead, what I do is I give a cash bonus for the amount of hours you work. So think about how smart that is. Okay. It's like, I already know your performance is there because I track your performance. So now instead of paying you more to have extreme performance, I pay you more to put in more hours. So all of my employees, I don't write their schedule. Everyone that works for me creates their own. I'll tell you, Americans. Yeah, I have Americans. A Filipino will sit in front of that damn computer for 12 hours, An American, on the other hand, that's going to be much different. The American needs to feel like an entrepreneur. So I almost call what I do the Uber of cold calling. Okay.
There you go.
So think about Uber drivers. Like I always say, like, if there was such a thing as an Uber boss, nobody would be, hey, Jimmy, you got to get to the movie theater. They need to pick him up. No, that's not how it works. No one even manages you. You sit in your car, you say, I'm ready to drive, and then you start driving. That is it. You clock out, you clock in, you take people. But if there was a real boss in Uber that was sweating you and yelling at you and making sure you showed up to work, you'd quit. So I did the same thing with cold calling.
I love that.
That is
and dude, I love your energy. You're always such a positive person, and I just wanted to give you just some compliments on that. You know, I see through Facebook the posts that you make, and you always have me laughing. You're always so positive. I know you got hit with the hurricane, and you had a flooded house, and you had to go live somewhere else, but you were like, hey, well, now I get to take a vacation. You posted your great Airbnb like a day later. Dude, it's that I would be hard pressed to find anyone or even myself able to turn some bad thing around like so quickly on that. And I just wanted to say it's very inspiring to me. I genuinely enjoy it, and it does change my mood, right? When I see you react that way. And so I'm just super happy to be like in the industry with you. And I know that you just have a great attitude and reputation for doing the very best things for your customers. I mean, the fact that you want to meet with them weekly and kind of like scale the unscalable is very inspiring. And so it's just cool. I'm thankful for you.
No, thank you, man. That really means a lot. You know, we're out, you know, it's out there trying to make a difference. You know, I try to create a service that and live a life that I would want. Right. And it's like, in the service I have, like, I'm a real pain in the ass when I'm a customer. So the service I created for people that are like me. So it's like, you know, I created it to be a higher level of service because I'm so difficult when I'm a customer. So all the meetings and stuff, that's what I would want. If I paid somebody, I want the owner's attention. I want to make sure that I'm purchasing the right thing. So it's kind of the golden rule, you know, in a sense.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anything
else you'd want to share with those who are getting into cold calling, maybe for their first time, you know, or tell us exactly if a beginner's good for you or if somebody more advanced is right fit for you?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One is I have a bunch of free courses online. They're all completely free. If you go to my website, it says free courses at the top. I have a free cold calling course that I train all my cold callers on. I know if you guys are using DealMachine, you're making a lot of cold calls yourself. Maybe you're making follow-up calls. I would totally watch that course. I'll give you a bunch of nuggets. My exact team uses it and it's free. And, you know, my service is for everybody, you know, because my prices start at $166 for completely done for you, for skip tracing. If you have your own list, skip trace, they start at $82, you know, so you can really come in with change in your pocket in the real estate world anyways, and then have some done for you leads. You don't have to worry about A2P. Don't have to worry about scripts or dialers or anything. So the new guys love us, because they're like, oh shit, I've been trying to figure out which list and which script, and I don't even want to train the VA and da-da-da. And then the seasoned guy loves us because he's like, dude, I just had a VA for 3 months. I didn't get a single lead. He cold called every day. I don't know what the hell's going on. And then I get 2 leads on their first day, and they're like, well, how'd you do that? And I was like, well, that's the difference, right? Like they don't even know. They're pulling the wrong list. They're using the wrong scripts. They're not using the right dialer. You know, it's like all these things people don't even know all the nuances. So, the new ones love me because I can skyrocket their early performance, and the veterans love me because they've been trying to do it themselves and they're sick and tired of the VAs that disappear, all that stuff. And then I would also say what I would leave everybody with would be, you know, 2 big things that happens in leads all the time. Okay. The first thing is stop over disqualifying leads. There's like this weird real estate culture. It's almost like macho, where they're like, I had a client tell me once, yeah, I call these leads and I say, you didn't really want to sell, did you? And they would say, no. And I didn't, you know, yeah. And it's like, I call that like, he's like, yeah, I'm weeding through the leads, dude. I'm like, that is not working a lead. I just want to be 100% clear with everybody. Trying to get them off that's like being on a date with the beautiful woman and be like, you got someone else you could have gone out with, right? Okay. Well, why don't you just go ahead and do that then? Right. It's like, we wouldn't do that. So why do we treat our customers like that? And, so don't over disqualify the lead. Stop shooting for no. find the common interest, find what you have to talk about. I don't care if their price is high on the first phone call. It was just the first phone call.
Yep.
Work on them, make them fall in love with you. Talk about price again after that. That's the first piece. The
Yep.
next piece is, and they're kind of similar, but stop prejudging the leads and no more negative self-talk. Okay. Leads are just like relationships, right? And I'll bring up, being in love again. If you have a wife and she does something that annoys you and you think about that thing all day long, when you finally come home, you're going to catch an attitude with your wife, period. Okay. So if you get a lead and you're like, this lead sucks, I can't believe how bad it sucks, and we just rag on it and rag on it and rag on it and rag on it, we're either A, never going to call the lead, or B, when we finally call them, we're going to have that crappy attitude where we're just trying to get them off the phone as quickly as humanly possible. So be extremely optimistic about every lead that comes in. It is so damn important. It doesn't matter. I used to have my partner say, Nick, read me the notes and lie to me. Okay, is what he used to say. Tell me how bad they want to sell their house. And he knew it's because it doesn't matter what they said. It matters the energy he brings to the call that makes the difference on the call.
Yep.
Man, that's great. Dude, I would also love your genuine response. Just as the founder of DealMachine, I've always been curious. I always say we have 25% connection rate for properties called on.
Yeah.
Is there any other data and dialer combo out there that would give you such a connection rate?
No, definitely not. We average anywhere from 7 to 12%, and even 12% is really high, right? As whenever you're using a dialer, contact rate's extremely important.
Well, that's good to know. A lot of big users like yourself, they want to use a triple line dialer. And we kind of designed ours to be single line for a couple reasons. Do you guys use a triple line, by the way?
Yep.
Okay. Why?
Well,
Just more calls?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And we monitor abandon rate, right, too.
Okay.
But why?
What is that? What does that mean? Actually?
Abandon rate is, so on a triple line dialer, if you call 3 people and one pick up, another one will get hung up on. Okay.
Yeah, right.
And so we do monitor abandon rate and make sure that is a really low number for us. That and contact rate are the two penalties of the triple line dialer, right? Mm-hmm. So those are the two downsides of it. But depending on your list size and the quality of list, right? It's like, it might also be beneficial to dial. It depends on how many people are answering and what kind of market it is. If you're in Phoenix or you're in a super saturated market, it can sometimes benefit you to move faster. I love what you guys have, and I think that even your system is super ideal for follow-up leads, right? It's like not even cold calling. I think cold calling is one thing, but the follow-up strategy, if you're getting a 25% contact rate on your follow-up too, yeah, I think that's an amazing number.
It's always a challenge with a serious power user. They don't want to move away from the triple line dialers. But as far as what I've seen for phones that show as like spam, I think that the triple lines kind of trash the spam because they're having a bunch of short duration calls because they're hanging up on 2 of the 3 every time. And so I kind of wanted to propose this. Could I personally pay for your service for a US person to make calls on my behalf, but do your whole process the same, but just call in Indianapolis with the DealMachine data and dialer just for me? Would you be down?
I would be. I would be down for that. That's not the way my product works for like other people. So I could be something I could try for you, because I don't sell my employees by the hour. I sell them by the dial, right? So if I move at one-time dialer, that means I lose 2/3 of my income on that, right? So it's like, because now I'm paying them to move 1/3 of the speed, right? So just to break that part down, I mean, in your case, we could try it, because we're friends and we could see how that goes, to just do like a split test, split test. But in general, like I don't sell like an employee by the hour. I sell them by the dial. So, and that's one of the main reasons why I also use a triple line dialer too, right? Is because
if they press the button once, you're getting 3 dials in that range. Is that what you mean?
Right. Yeah. They're basically moving at three dials per iteration, rather than one. So they're moving three
Okay.
times faster through.
But two of them don't get a chance to answer potentially, right?
Right. But
Okay.
I also, and that's the thing is I don't sell based off contacts. And so it's like for me, it's different. You know, I provide leads, right? And the phone conversations do provide leads, but I would have, like, mathematically, if I do something and I move at 1/3 the speed, my price would have to be increased, right? Because now that employee just costs me 3 times more because they're moving at 1/3 of the speed. But you know, for someone who has their own in-house operation, you know, something like that could be very, very beneficial. Just like, let's say, penned
I'll
post.
pay I'll pay extra. I would just I would really appreciate that
Yeah,
opportunity to potentially win you over for
yeah,
what could be better
yeah,
result. And I'd also like the leads as well for my own investing.
yeah.
And
Well, no, and
if you're open to it, I don't want you to be potentially out of money
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
running the test. I'm willing to pay extra, but I would love to do that if you were open to it.
Yeah. No, yeah,
I'd be
I
very
think that would
excited.
be great. And that could actually flip my model into, because if something like that happens and works, and let's say we do get way more leads, then I could change my model. Instead of being per dial, it's like, hey, you know, we could do per lead. The downside of that is every market is so vastly different, right?
Right.
You know,
You can
but
still pay per dial. You just what you're paying, you just
3x per
multiply it.
dial or
Yeah,
something.
3x your
yeah, right.
dial rate.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like, if it works, right? And yeah, we can probably come up with a DealMachine special too if it works. And then we just find a way to. The downside is if they're in someone else's dial, I also lose management, right? So one reason,
Ah,
yeah. So one, you know, it's like I can't track them. I can't, like, listen in, and I probably could. But that's the other part of using. I mean, again,
you
this would be a friendly exchange that we could definitely do. But I'm just, you know, I'm thinking like scaling and,
yeah.
you know, like
Well, I mean, I'll pay 3x if you're down to do it. And
yeah,
I'm sure that we could learn something as well
yeah,
from you about a dashboard and deal machine that you like don't have that you would
yeah,
be
yeah.
using in the other
And we could
place.
definitely either way do a split test on, you know, we could pull up your KPIs from us doing it, and then I could pull up my KPIs, and we can do a sheer split test too. That'd be cool.
Dude, if you're down, that would
I'm
make me
in.
very excited.
Yeah,
I would
no,
love to do
I'm
that.
in. I'd love that.
Awesome.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Well, thank you. Anything new coming that we should be excited about with lead mining,
You know,
or anything that you want to tell us as well? It's coming down the road.
I think it's my full-time foreign callers, if I could be honest with you, and and they're great for houses, right? You know, I mean, houses is a more saturated environment, and and you know, I have the American, like I mentioned, they're more land, more boutique, more suburban style. Alabama, Missouri, Arkansas, right? All those states, you know, the Americans are great in. But if you're in like California, Texas, Florida, New York, New Jersey, Chicago, then, you know, stick on one of our full-time callers, and it's really going to change the game. And I charge 1/3 of the price on the foreign callers. So they go so much further, and they're really good. And one thing I'm doing right now, because we're just bringing them back in, is I'm training them all myself. Right. So, you know, my Americans are actually trained by my best cold caller, but these
Yeah.
foreign callers I'm bringing in, because my name's on them and it's so important to me. I'm like listening to all their calls. I'm like coaching them
Oh
one by
yeah.
one. And the other cool part is I'm picking the best ones. I mean, I'm picking the ones that sound American, right? So I'm given like 20 VAs. I pick 3
Mm-hmm.
that sound the most American. And so, so yeah, I think it's been super exciting for me to roll that out. And even in heavily saturated markets right now, we've got in like Tampa, Florida, we're ripping out 4 leads a day, you know, and that's a lot. That's a lot in a market like Tampa, you know.
Yeah.
So it's pretty
Dude,
good.
one of the things I again have to compliment you on is you've kind of allowed the customer to pick their choice of path. There's a million ways to get leads, and I think it's so common in a business to get honed in on, well, no, this is the best way. This is the one thing we're going to offer.
Right.
And if you want to work with us, you do that one thing. But it actually kind of puts you in a position to not only serve people who want to do things, try things differently. Everyone has their own opinion on what they want to do. But also it puts you in a position you get to see all that and compare all that
Right.
and be a wise person that can give advice based on all the different ways that you could see. So that's really cool.
No, and it is cool. So I used to call ourselves a create your own adventure book for real estate investors, right?
Yeah.
And it's like flip to page 45 to see the dragon get slayed kind of thing, you know? And it really is cool because no matter what, and that's why I do my pre-calls with everyone. Hey, I'm in Phoenix. Okay. Foreign dials, text messaging. Hey, I'm doing land. Okay. Americans, text messaging. Hey, and then halfway through your campaign, we can even make changes. Hey, this isn't working. Hey, calls aren't working. Great. We're going to convert it all to text. There's not a single direct mail company in existence that can stop your mail from, like, once they push that button, like, it's gone. It's gone. And now that $4,000 is gone. With us, you give us 4K. Halfway through the 4K, you want to pick a new market, shift, pivot your order. Like, we can do all that. So I'm almost like I'm a lead mechanic, if you think about it. I'm getting in there, editing it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up, just wanted to say thank you again.
Yeah.
It's been great to have 30 minutes to speak with you. Somebody I always see online and am inspired by. So thanks again. Yeah. And I hope we can do that test together as well.
Oh yeah, I'm ready, man. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was awesome.
You bet.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.